All right, here we go. We're here with Rick Leach, president of Trans-States Holdings, and he is chair of the Regional Airline Association. Rick, can you explain to us what was said in yesterday's meeting with the presidents about the controversy now going on with the Colgan issue and the National Transportation Safety Board, and basically what the industry decided yesterday to do about it?
Well, we didn't speak in any detail about the specifics of the Colgan incident. I mean, we took the information, obviously, that was provided to us all. All of us heard it from the NTSB, their initial investigation, and are taking that information and trying to learn from what their observations are, seeing what needs to be focused on, if at all, what items need to be focused on, to meet as a group and attempt to reach out to realize this is a global industry issue. It's not a regional issue. So these points that were brought up or as observations, and what we really decided to do was focus on some specific areas of reinforcing our existing safety programs, communicating the importance of the various responsibilities of the professional pilot, and more importantly, to reach out to our counterparts at ATA, the big guys, the majors, and work together with them, because we all have put so much effort, and our focus is always on safety in everything we do. And so there's no low-hanging fruit anywhere. So we want to work with industry as a whole to see what, if anything, needs to really be changed. And if there is something, let's really understand it. So it's a meaningful improvement. It's a meaningful change that has results, not just change for the sake of change that might not really do anything. Or you can always take a reactionary approach and do something that might have a counterproductive effect or impact. So the key is, we have a lot of smart folks that come together at the REA, all of our airline presidents, and we get a chance to sort of dialogue and talk about best practices and, how do you handle this and how do you handle that, which we do anyway, and to learn from each other. Instead of having to reinvent the wheel, how do we learn from each other? Because it's a single transportation system, it's a single safety commitment and a single safety level of safety requirement by the FAA that we all are under as a 121 carrier. It's not different, so we all have the same needs.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by it's all one industry? I think earlier somebody was talking about this morning about standard industry practices are throughout the industry rather than just the regionals, for instance, like commuting. Is that a good example of what are some of the things that makes it one industry?
It's one industry because we're all 121 carriers, and all the standards for training, whether it's a 30-seat turboprop or a 50-seat regional jet, 120-seat jet, or whether it's 777, are the same. They're the same. And so it's one issue because these issues are something that we all together, if there's something to be worked on, we want to work on it together, because the impact isn't just that regional carrier or that turboprop operator or that regional jet operator, but it's also the one that flies the MD-80s and the 737s and the 757-767s and the Airbuses. It's an industry. If there's an item of improvement, it affects and impacts the whole, because we're all governed and guided by the 121 requirements together, the same standard we all must meet or exceed.
One of the things that was said this morning was that you would be going about an industry self-assessment. Can you speak about that a little bit more?
Well, I don't know if I think the industry, whenever anything happens, we as individual carriers, you always learn. It's a lessons learned item. You want to look at it and see, is there something I need to tweak? Is there something I need to reinforce? So that's an ongoing thing. To work with our local FAA offices in our region with us together. I mean, we work with them every day, and to work with them, on these special focus areas to see, what do you think? What do you think? So we reach some common improvements. And then, but I think as a whole, we want to get with the ATA and the REA together, and we need to assess, what's the right approaches, using some of the resource and access to resources that we all have, understanding that and bringing it together. So it's not that there's this map, per se, because that would be a quick, this quickly a bit of a hip shot approach. Get everybody together, the minds together, talk about issues that that impact us all and how we're dealing with it, and assess that, and then decide, working in conjunction with the regulators, as to what is necessary to move forward, what's really going to have an impact based on the concerns or observations that they have and we have. Being part of the process is the most important thing. It's really a forced dialogue that we want to continue to push forward.
And what about the FAA and the major carriers have become data-driven safety experts? Have the regionals done that? I know that they've adopted ASAP, but they were criticized last November for not having FOQA.
Well, FOQA is an evolving program in the regional sector. Some regionals have it. Some regionals have certain forms of it as they're implementing it. There's LOSA, there's FOQA, there's ASAP, there's
all
ATOS.
The alphabet soup groups.
Yeah, but a lot of carriers have a form of the LOSA program, which is the ride along and really observing the pilot in action. Forms, of course, the ASAP program, like you said, ATOS, which is a different standard of how you approach the industry, how you approach the regulations, how you do your manuals and your training, and how you have all these different checks and balances within your systems. So the regionals are on top of all of that. FOQA was an evolving thing. I think carriers and the regionals are looking at some of the SMS guidance, system safety, system management safety, safety management systems that are coming up, and that another new buzzword that's coming out there that's going to sort of morph or sort of amend the ATOS process. And we're engaged in all of that with our local regulators and working with them to add sort of baby steps and building blocks of those programs until those programs come to fruition, a few years down the road. None of these are light switches. You know. That's the one thing, ATOS, it takes a carrier many years to fully become what we call it ATOS compliant, but you're an ATOS carrier or you're not. It's not compliant because it's a constant surveillance, it's a constant review, it's a constant testing of your systems.
Now, my final question is one that is going to be a hardball question, and that is, Robert Sunwalt from the National Transportation Safety Board has been complaining about pilot discipline and pilot training for 2 years. Last year when I asked the question, the industry seemed to say it was a matter of educating the National Transportation Safety Board as to what the real regional industry was all about. But this is a pilot coming from a pilot. So why do you think it took the regional airline industry so long to respond at this level to growing criticism from the NTSB for 2 years?
No, I think we've always responded. I don't think we're responding any differently today than we've responded before. I mean, our safety programs are always being evaluated. Our safety programs, I think, are very, very good. I mean, I can't comment on another airline safety program. I don't know what it is. I can only comment on my own, and my own is one of the tougher ones, I think, in the regional side. I mean, if you look at sometimes pilots will say, boy, that the training program over at Trans-States, our GoJet is a very, very difficult one. It's hard to get through that one. It's a really hard program. And that's okay. I mean, I think we all, we meet what we're required to do, and most of us well exceed that as well in various areas. I mean, we're surely not going to put someone behind in the cockpit behind the wheel of that aircraft unless we are confident they're prepared for that, and that they've done everything they need to do to pass the rigorous testing that we put them through. But I don't believe our training is any way faulted or damaged. I believe that we've got to find what are the things that we've got to continue to reinforce. What are the things that maybe could cause an individual in the course of their duties to become a bit complacent? How do we focus on that? And I'm not talking about the Colgan Act specifically, just in general. In any business, you always want to understand what is it that makes a person choose to not follow this very specific, checklist, process, procedure, guidelines, standard operating procedures that they've been trained on and been drilled in their head. What causes that to happen? And I think as an industry, we need to always be looking at those things, and we do it. We need to continue to look deeper at those things because those human type factor, where there's that moment of truth, that choice. How do we make sure that they make the right choice if there's
was it you who said that the human factors was the next frontier in aviation safety?
I believe it is, but I think you've probably heard a lot of my associates say that. I think it's just something that we've got to just continue. All industry has done that, and we've even done it. But it's something that you continue to understand. You need to continue to understand the psychology of the job and sort of what makes people tick and do the things they do, and that. because the systems and the processes and the training and the tools are more advanced than they've ever been. So this is an opportunity sort of us to all work together and learn how to take some of these, more psychological things, part of the training, sort of the intangibles, if you will, to the next level.
Okay. Rick, thank you very much.
Oh, you're
That was
welcome.
great.
Thanks. I have got to run. I am way over.